video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello, welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller, and if you don't know and you just stumbled across this by random, it is a video game podcast. I mean, you probably could have worked that out from both the thumbnail and the name, but I like to make sure everybody is in the loop. My name is Simon Miller, and yeah, once a week I just sit down and I just talk to you guys about what's happened in games over the last 7 days. Now, we are in June, and we're in late June as well, which means E3's come and gone, and because there's so much of an explosion of information during that time, we always go through a bit of a low period afterwards, at least I find it. But there's still stuff to talk about, still stuff that we can go over. If you'd like to support any of my projects, including this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Simon316. There's a link in all the descriptions, no matter where you see this. And if you'd like to watch your podcast, because you're that person, which is cool, you can go to youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules, and it will be up there as well. As always, though, I am joined by a co-host. Well, he's the co-host of The Week in Gaming. It's my mate Sam Bishop, who's been away. He was at 3, but Sam, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm sort of dying in this heat, but it's totally British to be complaining when it's too hot, but I'll be complaining when it's cold. So.
Well, this is the thing, I never complain when it's cold. That's the only thing I get away with is I love the cold. The cold makes me happy, so when it is hot, I will moan, and I will moan like a crazy person, so, yeah, you know.
I'll tell you what the worst thing is about the heat. People are just like, why are you playing games? And you have to be like, oh, just
let me do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Like I never understand that. Maybe I have some kind of disease where if I go in the sun, I die. Did you ever think about that? No, you didn't. I hated that kind of stuff. I really do. It drives me nuts. Like, who cares? Why do you care what anybody else is doing? I don't understand it. But of course, we are going to talk about games. This is coming off the back of E3 and a report I was reading today when somebody basically asked Bethesda, why have you already announced The Elder Scrolls 6, even though clearly it's not coming out for at least 2 years minimum? To be honest, I think it's coming out on next-gen consoles. I'm almost convinced that it'll be an Xbox 2, whatever they're going to call it, in a PS5 game. And it did get me thinking, because Bethesda's response was they just wanted to show the fans what we were up to. And I was kind of like, well, how do I feel about that? Because in a way, I think in the age of social media, it's nice that a company wants to be that upfront. You could also argue, if you want to be really cynical, you could argue Bethesda just wanted a big announcement at the end of their conference, and it worked. But when you kind of go through, and Sam, you may have more as well, but this is just at the top of my head as I sat there, and 3 games instantly popped into my head were Final Fantasy VII Remake, Shenmue 3, Elder Scrolls 6. Also, Metroid Prime 4 was another one I thought about, which we're going to talk about later in the show too. And I just don't think there's a need to do it. It doesn't make a difference. Of course it doesn't. You know, we can just forget about it. But to me, announcing Elder Scrolls 6 now and having to wait 2 years for it, meaning, you know, we're not really going to get a proper build for at least a year, maybe a year and a half, I think it does diminish it a little bit. And I think it's like if you work, I know some people that work in games listen to this podcast, but if you don't, Ubisoft are the masters at 5 o'clock of sending you a press release. At 5 p.m, you can bet your ass that you go ping and you're going to check an email and it's going to be from Ubisoft. And after a while, that whatever game they're pimping does start to become a little long in the tooth because you just feel like you're drowned in information. And that goes for the consumer as well because, you know, those press releases are then rewritten by video game websites and they're put out there. And I worry that because we're living in this age where people want retweets and social media engagement, all of this, that we're announcing games earlier and earlier. And ultimately, it's not ruining the end experience because, you know, if a game is good, a game is good. But it's kind of ruining the hype and maybe the fun that we used to have with games back in the day. That was my thought process anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the reason they announced it, I assume, is because they get Todd Howard on stage every 3-ish years, and they have to sort of dump all the information and wheel him back out, and then wheel him back out again in 3 years. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons, and I think it was just sort of like people have just been clamoring for it. It might have just been like, listen, we're making it, all right? We're just making it. Just deal with it, and it's sort of like. I think it was a strong showing from everyone else, if you know what I mean. They didn't know where everyone else was going to go.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
And Elder Scrolls 6 is sort of like it's a golden bullet to win E3, right? It's just like, if they announced that, they could show a title on the screen, which they did, and everyone lost their mind, including me. And I guess it just depends how patient you are. Like, the whole of the industry is probably frustrated when games are delayed and delayed and delayed. But I have a lot more trust in people like Rockstar with Red Dead Redemption 2 and Bethesda with Elder Scrolls 6 than I do with I don't even know who's making Shenmue 3 and Square Enix. Because Square Enix Final Fantasy 15 was in development for 10 years, so I didn't have trust in them in the first place, whereas I do have trust in Bethesda to at least deliver it, at all, whereas Shenmue 3 is even looking debatable, you know what I mean?
Shenmue 3 is ridiculous. I mean, it's been delayed time and time again. I don't even know of anyone that's played it, which I think kind of sums up the whole thing, right? I mean, was it 2 years or 3 years ago? I can't even remember now when it was announced.
I couldn't tell you.
No, it was exactly, right? We don't know, and that's the thing. So, I think that's my problem with it, is that it does get to the point where, why did they even announce it? Why did they announce Shenmue 3? I mean, maybe you're probably right with Elder Scrolls 6. I think right now, Bethesda are on somewhat of a roll, so they're probably going to keep that roll up. But I do think, once they start getting to talk about it in 18 months' time, a bit like this would have a much more impact if you just do it then. I don't think we needed to, throw this out there. But I get it. You're right. It's all a game at the end of the day. But something
it's a power thing. Like they can do that, and they know people will eat it out of the palm of their hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, say if someone announced, I don't know. I can't think of anything. This is a great example. This has gone really well for me. Say if someone announced like Max Payne 4.
Yeah.
It would just be like, okay, I'm sort of looking forward to that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not an out of the park kind of announcement.
No.
Whereas you're right, and you are right about that. The Elder Scrolls 6 is massive. I don't know. I just find it weird. Mate, I think it's definitely more weird with something like the Final Fantasy 7 remake and Shenmue 3. Because again, the Final Fantasy 7 remake, what have we seen ever since it was announced? And the answer is absolutely nothing.
The last trailer we got was in 2016.
Exactly. So we have had no information. We don't know what they're taking out. We don't know what they're putting in. We don't know what they're... we don't know anything. We don't know what their inspiration was, other than what people have asked this for ages. And let's say it actually does come out in 2020 on a next-gen machine. I know it will still have a massive buzz, but it does. I do think, I understand this is different because of the bugs, but I do think you start walking into Last Guardian territory. And I think that's my worries, because I love Team Ico games. And I say love, I mean love. I think Ico was amazing. I think Shadow of the Colossus is one of the best games ever. And I actually think if there wasn't so much hoolah around The Last Guardian, I probably would have enjoyed it more than I had. But because they announced it so early, and because there was problem after problem, by the time I sat down with it, I was like, you know what? I just don't need to play this. And it didn't have anything that won me over. Like, it didn't have the magic the other two games had. And again, that could be because it was just in development for too long and the industry passed them by. But I don't know. It fell flat. And I definitely don't want that to happen with something. Because Elder Scrolls 6 is a big game for me. And I completely understand, as I said before, this is on me. It's not on Bethesda. But if they don't use the Elder Scrolls 6 to change up what I know Bethesda to be, I don't know if I can play it. Yeah. And if you're going to have that coupled with the fact that I've been waiting for potentially 2 years, I think that's kind of not dangerous, but I think it's a worrying proposition because it could go badly.
Yeah, I think Bethesda are a smart company though, right? I don't think they would announce this if they were not early in development, but I think they're sort of solid that it's coming, They wouldn't do a Shenmue, I don't think. I think they've got a lot more organisation and a lot more thought into whether they were going to announce that or not. But yeah, like for me, it's just I love Oblivion and I like Skyrim, and I just don't want more of the same though. They've got to do something that's different, and what that is going to be very, very interesting.
No, it's true. I mean, just looking at the last thing we heard about Shenmue 3 obviously was it got delayed into next year, and other than that, all you know is there's nothing. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing. There's no information. There's no gameplay. There's no structure. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And to me, for a game that has been asked about for something, I thought it was a silly idea anyway when they announced it. I was like, you cannot live up to this hype. You just can't. And
it's got 6.
No, with Shenmue 3.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, you see, the good thing about it's good thing you mentioned that in that sense, because the good thing about the Elder Scrolls is Bethesda are going to plow money into it. Like they're going to absolutely plow, but that works, right? Because money will give you good production values and make it look good. Shenmue 3 is working off a Kickstarter budget essentially, whereas that game to be what it wants to be needs like $100 million, and there's no way it's anywhere near that. So. To me, by the time it comes out, people are going to have fatigue because of delays, because of not having information and waiting. They'll have expectations, and these expectations will continue to rise the more they talk about it. And then they'll get something that's nothing like they put up in their own heads, and you could argue that's more on them than it is Sega. It's up to you to decide that one. And then that's it. it's kind of dead before it even comes out. And so I do think and that's why I kind of respect what Sony did at this year's E3, where they focused on 4 clearly big games that are coming out that they want to be a big deal. Now, I don't know if they announced the release date for Ghosts of Tsushima. However, I thought the way they approached it, here's the game, here's some gameplay, here's our plans with it. And I knew the name because we talked about it on here before, but I had no excitement for it. Now, it was one of the best things I saw at E3.
Yeah, and it's just like they're all confident in their releases. Like you're going to see all those games because there's solid evidence. You know what I mean? Like it's all like these are all coming. This is what you have to look forward to.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to blow us away with new announcements. Control was announced, sure, but yeah, it doesn't need announcements, and that shows how strong Sony is. Really, they can just show games we already know about.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I don't think there was a release date for Ghost of Tsushima, right?
I don't think
I didn't hear, and I actually went out my way to look up that game because I was like, oh. That looks good. I mean, I don't know if there hasn't an instant. It certainly hasn't been. When was it? It was announced end of last year, right? 2017, correct? Sometime
Paris Games Week. No, was it PSX?
Well, yeah, at some point around there. Yeah, so I mean, it could be this year. It could be early next year. But that just, I think that's what struck me as the way to do it. And you mentioned just before we came on here, I know it's different because it's Spider-Man, and you can sell shit Spider-Man games and be okay. But, that the way Sony have treated that, reminding people about, superhero games are not what they once were. This is Spider-Man. Everybody loves Spider-Man. And it's an exclusive. I thought they handled it wonderfully. And like I say, talking to people like you who have said it's the best thing you've played and watching it myself, me as a man that doesn't necessarily like Spider-Man games is now like, it's on my radar. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And it's a weird thing to end the show with, that press conference.
Yeah.
Because we walked out and we're like, oh, that was it. That was Spider-Man. Right. Okay. That's coming out in September. Okay.
But you played it though, right?
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Why so good? Because everyone has said that. Everyone has said so good.
Well, I think they did a very good thing in the E3 demo because the first thing you do is launch off of a building, and then there's like, here's how to swing. And that's obviously a lot of people's like, they can't do the swing, and Spider-Man 2 had the best swing, and you can't do it right.
Yeah.
And then you did it right, and it's just effortless. Like, you sort of take these things and it feels intuitive straight away.
Oh, yeah. That was like Spider-Man 2, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And you were just going, you drop it down, you're raising up, you're zipping where you need to go. And it's all really like, you don't have to think about it. And that's really good. I thought the gameplay would be really Arkham Asylum-ish. But it's not, because everyone thought when in the gameplay demo, when the things come off his head, like the Spidey sense, that it would be a reverse button, but instead it prompts a dodge button. So it's a little bit, it sounds weird, it's a little bit like Bloodborne in the sense that you're always dodging, nipping about between people, hitting them, and then nipping about again, rather than doing the whole elbow to the face crunch repeatedly that Batman Arkham Asylum had. So it doesn't feel like Arkham Asylum, although it obviously has those influences. It's really quick. There's a lot of fan service in there, obviously. I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, but there's little nods and little hints. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
I like that, though, because I think in a 2018 world, if you're not taking inspiration from what Rocksteady did, because let's face it, they basically saved an entire genre if you want to take superhero games as a genre.
Yeah.
To not do that, it seems silly to me. Like, I was talking this about someone the other day, I don't go off on too much of a tangent, but no one ever remembers or mentions that it was basically Christopher Nolan that saved superhero movies. Before Batman Begins, everyone thought they were shite. And then, I think it's the same with Rocksteady. I know it takes longer with a, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. A video game. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something else. But with that takes longer than a film to do, which I understand. But I still think, not being inspired by what those guys did. The fact that everyone's still desperate, and we're going to get to this later on as well, but the fact that everyone's still desperate to see what Rocksteady are going to do kind of sums up how good they did it.
Yeah, it's just, I think the thing is they did it so well, but they sort of did it so, like, in a bubble. Like, they didn't need to do any more of Batman. Like, if you kept making Batman, it wouldn't have been, because people got fatigued by Arkham Knight. So it's sort of like, what do you do now? And I think that's where Spider-Man comes in. What do you do with that superhero formula? Like, can people make a good, I don't know if I'm preempting your point, but maybe a Superman game? And then, so.
But you're right. That's the key, right? You want, and I'm guessing you think they have, you want Insomniac. Who's making it? Insomniac, right? Yeah.
Spider-Man, Insomniac.
Yeah. You want Insomniac to Rocksteady Spider-Man. That's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather it wasn't dark and gritty, because I'm a bit tired of superheroes being dark and gritty these days. But it's definitely not, so that's good.
Yeah, well, I'm genuinely intrigued about it, and You know, I loved Spider-Man 2, but other than that, I'd be like, nah, I'm not interested. But yeah, so I definitely will see what's happening with that. Right, moving on to sort of more current things. I didn't actually think I'd be excited about this as I was, but Telltale have said that after the last series of The Walking Dead, they're scrapping their engine, and by the time Stranger Things comes around, they're actually going to be onto a new engine. Now, if that was any other company, I don't think I'd care, other than Bethesda maybe. But I love Telltale Games, and much like Bethesda games, I stopped playing them because I got bored of the format. Because like, all you're doing here is taking different licenses and copying and pasting onto something I feel like I've already played. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because they made it work a lot. But, you know, I tired of it. Especially because the first one I ever played was The Walking Dead Season 1. Have you played that?
No, I've only dabbled in a few of the...
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you not played that many Telltale games?
No, I've only dabbled. I bought Minecraft Story Mode because it was on the Switch. I just got my Switch. I was going on a flight, so I was like, "That's cheap. I'll have that." But I've literally not played anything else because I've heard The Wolf Among Us is really good. I've heard The Walking Dead is really good. I've heard Tales of the Borderlands amazing. So yeah, I want to try them. It's just the backlog's high, right? So.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, like I said, The Walking Dead Season 1 is so good that it kind of peaked. I've only played one thing. So it was like, right, okay. But I do enjoy the Batman games as well. However, I do think they're in need for a change. So this excites me because they clearly have a very talented team. The way they approach things is very good. It's unique. It's original. And if they can keep getting these big licenses and also change up how they've done things to a certain extent, even if it's just the way it looks, I actually think that could breathe a new lease of life into that company.
Yeah, I think the general air around Telltale is that people are tired of it, right? It seems to be like they've released so much of the, like you say, the same formula that they sort of need a refresh. And yeah, that can only be good news, right? And they're going to get... Did you say Stranger Things? Is that a Telltale thing?
That's what they said. I didn't even know. In fact, I should have Googled it, really. I didn't know they were doing Stranger Things. I just read that in the news article, and I took it as read. But yeah, no, I mean, it is. Yeah, there's a deal between Telltale and Stranger Things. It was announced sort of earlier in the week. There you go. A couple of weeks ago it was announced. So I mean, it's weird the way Telltale do things because you think they really would have struck that about a year ago. But I guess these things take time. And I think Stranger Things now has such a cult following that I think everybody wants a video game of that, you'd imagine, especially because it's so heavy on pop culture and everything like that. But I genuinely do think, especially given that it's Stranger Things as well, actually, to be fair, that maybe those two things together with a new engine, it could actually be a real success. Maybe that could be their sort of Walking Dead Season 1 all over again, where they, start afresh and move on. I'd like to see it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, a bit of a formula change would also be nice. And the games weren't looking great, I know Game of Thrones is old, but I saw a playthrough of that and I was like, this looks horrible. It's
bad. It's a bad game. I downloaded the whole season because I thought, well, I like Telltale and I like, Game of Thrones. And then most reviews I'd read said it was okay. So I thought I'd probably get on with it. Man, I played a couple. I was like, it's just boring. That was too much like a pick your own adventure. But it felt like I was choosing pages. I didn't feel invested in it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was bad. It was just I felt like it was that game that made me feel like they were veering more towards. Did you ever play their Jurassic Park game before they got good? Basically.
No.
Oh, it was I think it's the worst game I ever played. So,
is that the FMV one?
No. It looked like all their other ones do.
Oh, okay.
But there was one point, I've always told this story, but I'm happy to tell it again. There was one point where you were in one of the Jurassic Park Jeeps, and I can't remember the name of the dinosaur, which one it was. It's the one that spits poison at you.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a quick time event, but it was no quick. It was just a timed event. So it gave you an eternity to push the right button, and then you would just close the door and drive off. So there was no immediacy to it. There was no tension, no atmosphere. So I went back and replayed that bit and pushed the wrong button after about 10 minutes just to see what was going to happen. And the dinosaur just spat stuff in my face. I was like, that's awful. I bet if I look it up now, I did it for Now Gamer. That's how old it is. If I type in Now Gamer, Jurassic Park, worst game ever. Well, I know what's happened to Now Gamer. They may have closed it down. I think Now Game has been closed down. Anyway, there used to be an article on there where I said it was the worst. It really was. And that was also the E3 where we weren't allowed to play it.
That's not good.
Well, yeah, it was in there. It was like one of those sort of behind closed doors things, and somebody was playing it for you. But the guy that was demoing it had to leave because he had to get his flight. So he just walked out the room. So I went, all right, and I just picked up the control and started playing it. They were good days. No one I didn't ever know that. No one walked in. Nobody stopped me. I just played the entirety of that demo. That's when I started mucking around with it as well. So yeah, as long as they don't go back to that, I'll be a happy man. But we will see. Also, Mario Tennis Aces is now out. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say you haven't played this, Sam.
No, everyone keeps going on about it, but it's just no.
Have you played any of the, apart from Mario Kart, it doesn't count, but have you played any Mario sports titles in, say, 5 to 10 years? Because I think they're all wonderful. I don't think there's a bad one at all.
No.
You haven't? Well, you're not into that. Why?
Well, it's just like, I don't really like any other sports other than football, and I'm very catered for in terms of football.
Yeah, you are.
It's just like, I know it's not, obviously tennis fans aren't flooding to Mario Tennis Aces for their tennis simulations, but yeah, it's just not for me. I'd probably pick it up and I'd enjoy it, but on my own, I don't think I would.
Did you ever play Mario Stars Soccer, whatever it's called?
No, my friend tries to get me to play that. It's just, I was like, let's just play FIFA.
That is the problem. I said that wasn't great. You know, it was okay, but I think that was one of the worst ones. And I will say that I don't think any of the do I think this? I do think this. I don't think any of the console ones have ever topped the ones on I think it was the GBA or the DS. I can't remember what it was, but they were amazing when they had like leveling up systems and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, but this one, I don't know what it is. Like the single player / campaign, whatever you want to call it, it is just, it's just a tutorial, really. That's what it is. It's fun and it has a silly story, and it kind of ribs on the Avengers a lot, which is quite funny. And at one point, I swear that they say Luigi got kidnapped by a tennis racket, and you're like, what? But it's good. That's all fine, and you have boss fights against P.T. de Piranha and who knows what else. It basically teaches you the game. But when you actually sit down with it with a friend and you just play the basic mode, it is such a good arcade tennis game, and it is so much fun. And you can turn all the special shots off, which I actually don't do because I think it's more frustrating, like Mario Kart is, to have them on because you can really get under people's skin in a good way. So. I don't know. It's just I miss games like Virtua Tennis, and I think this nails that vibe so well, and it is so much fun, and it's got that classic Nintendo multiplayer magic, which I just cannot believe anybody can come up with apart from them. That you just want to keep playing it for ages, and honestly, I like it so much that I would put it in. It's not as good, but I would put it in the same league as like a Mario Kart or a Smash Brothers, in the sense that the foundations and the gameplay are to such a high standard. You could just sort of iterate on this as the years and months go on, and that would be okay. I don't really need a full rewrite because I'm already enjoying what you're doing to such a degree.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's top of the charts right now, and everyone's loving it. So, I'm just not surprised to hear you loving it as well.
Well, it's just, like I said, I played it preview for Trusted Reviews a couple of months before it came out, and even then I was like, oh, there's something here. And then, I don't know what it is. It's just, it's something about Nintendo for me, and they just... when they get in my head, they really get in my head. I'm just looking up reviews now because I didn't actually look because I don't care. Not in a bad way, but I'd already made up my mind. Yeah. So it was like I don't need to read it. And a lot of them are moaning about. This is my problem with it. A lot of people are moaning that the super shots are bad, but you can turn them off. So it's like, okay, it's not really an argument. And a lot of people have compared it to a fighting game, and it is like that. But I think that's a good thing because you can win matches by breaking the other person's racket.
Yeah.
I just think that it's a really, really fun... I mean, it depends. If you're playing this for the adventure mode or the single-player game, whatever you want to call it, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But I think really, even from this vantage point, you should know that isn't the reason to play this game. It's a multiplayer game. Like, nobody enjoys Mario Kart more in single-player. So I do appreciate they tried to add a story mode into it, but I don't know. And also, it's just so deep. Like, it doesn't. You can be 8 years old and enjoy this, or you can be, 40 years old and still enjoy this. It's that classic.
That's the Nintendo beauty, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that classic Nintendo thing where they somehow managed to, just merge all demographics and genres, and it genuinely is one of my favorite games of this year, which is such a dumb thing to say when it's a cartoon tennis game. But I love it. It makes me happy.
It's a cartoon tennis game done well from the sounds of it.
Well, it is. It's got that FIFA feel to me where I think I'll just have one game. Play a game. All right, I'll come back to this later. I love it. I think it's wonderful. I don't know if they're doing any other content for it. Sorry, I was just looking to see. But yeah, I have no idea. But I hope they do. I hope they keep
They probably
updating.
will.
Yeah, I hope they keep updating it, and I hope this becomes a thing. And Sam, if you ever get the chance to play it, I think you should, because I'm intrigued what you think.
Yeah, it's just the struggle with Switch games. They just don't drop in price. It's very hard to like gamble on.
That's true.
Like I don't want to be like, oh, I assume it's full price, 40, 50, and then it'll be like, oh, I don't like this. It's unlikely I won't like it, but it's just like, oh, okay, that's 40 quid.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's probably too much, to be honest, if you're not sold on the idea. But again, that classic thing as well, because you can take it on the go. Just excellent. Yeah. Just brilliant. It really is so good. Have you been playing anything actually before we do the last thing I wanted to talk about?
Yes, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Fine.
Have you really? I've never played it, but I kind of like Rabbids in an ironic way, which makes me an asshole to say something like that. And obviously, I love Mario games. We just established that, but I still don't really understand what that is. So even though we are going back in time, sell it to me.
Baby's first XCOM is what I'd say.
Is that good though? Well, clearly
that is good, because like the thing that puts me off about XCOM is when I look at screenshots, it's like, okay, you got 50 different things at the bottom of the screen, then you've got all these stats on the right, and it's like, oh my god, like, it looks fun in essence in the sense that you're moving people around the grid and you're doing this turn-based sort of battle, but it looks all complicated. And then what Mario does is it's basically like, here's all the turn-based stuff, and here's all the characters you love. And basically, they pile mechanics on very, very lightly. So you do a few battles with just a gun and you cover and a grid. And then here's like, oh, you can do pipes to move around the battlefield. And then eventually they then say, oh, here's some extra weapons, here's some progression, etc., etc. And soon you get this deep game that you can invest time into, but it's not like overwhelming. So it is like Baby's first XCOM, and nobody thought that the Rabbids would work in there. And I'm not exactly like, woo, Rabbids, get me a Rabbid figure, but like they're not as annoying as you think they would be.
I never mind the Rabbids, man. I'm not gonna lie. I think their games are quite funny. Some of them amused me quite a lot. I don't know why, but they did.
I'm still bitter that they took Rayman and decided to put Rabbids in it, and for some reason Rabbids came out of that alive as opposed to Rayman. Like, we've got no Rayman games, but Rabbids are doing a game of Mario. Like, it could have been Mario and Rayman, but whatever.
I don't know. You tell me. But is it worth? Again, is it? I mean, it sounds good on paper, but is it worth? Going out of your way to, again, for 40 quid. Did you buy it intentionally, or did you find it cheap?
I bought it intentionally because I played it last year's E3, and I was like, okay, I've got to get around to this. And then, obviously didn't. And then on the flight to this year's E3, I was like, okay, you know what, I should probably play this. And then it was the perfect time, and it's a 20-hour up experience, so it is meaty. And as much as I describe it as Baby's vs XCOM, it's got a lot in there, a lot of upgrades, a lot of progression, and now Donkey Kong DLC is adding another 10 hours to it. And so, it's a really, really, really good game. And it's really hard to sell, because if you're just like, it's like XCOM with the Rabbids, and you're like, it doesn't sound good though, does it?
Well, it sounds like a very intense mix. That would be, you know what I mean? Like two things that can rub and can irk people the wrong way. But you're in though. That's it. It got you.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
What's the community like? Can you go? I guess you can go online with it and stuff.
I don't think you can go online with it.
Can you not?
No, I don't think so. Unless I totally missed that.
I don't know. No, I don't know anything, man. I know absolutely nothing.
No, I mean, it's good, and I don't know anything about if there is multiplayer. I don't think there would be. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, the campaign itself is, if there is enough to suffice.
Well, there you go, dude. So, I mean, will I ever play it? I don't know if I would, but I'm certainly intrigued by it. I think it's one of those ones where if I borrowed or found it cheap, I would.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, again, that only Nintendo would come up with. I mean, Ubisoft and Nintendo sitting down and going, hey, let's do a Mario Rabbids game. You're like, what? Why? But the fact that it's good, I think kind of sums it up. And again, just reiterates that I honestly believe out of Nintendo, out of Sony, and out of Microsoft. Well, I think even with their good E3 showing, I think Microsoft are so off the pace at the moment, just because it's not about what you've got, what you're gonna have, it's what you've got right now, and I don't think about anything. I think Nintendo. I honestly think if I had to give up any two of my consoles out of three, I'd keep the Switch. I really would. I could live without. I could live without my PS4 and Xbox One, but I think that I enjoy the Switch game so much. Yeah. Yeah.
What have you been playing anyway?
Well, like I said, we've been playing Mario Tennis a lot. Otherwise, what haven't been playing? Well, actually, cheap plug. I've finally been putting the finishing touches on God of War for the second time after my Let's Play files corrupted, and I had to start again. Well, not start again, but start halfway through. So actually, a massive playthrough is going to go up tomorrow. It's a proper 2-hour chunk of me getting through it. So I went back to that and realised that while I do love it, I do think the Norse mythology lets it down. I know I shouldn't say that, and I'm a terrible person, and all those kind of things. But I just do. I think the aesthetic and even the colour scheme doesn't suit God of War. I get it. That makes me sound like an asshole. Like, what am I talking about? And it's good they tried something different. That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel. I think there are some elements and some scenarios that you find yourself in where it doesn't feel like Kratos should be there. I know that sounds nuts, but that's what it feels like. And I think the kid, while it's worked into the gameplay well, ultimately the story feels a little bit forced around the kid. And in a way, I'm quite glad I can say this now because the hype's died down. I still think it's great. I still think it's amazing. I still give it like a 9 out of 10 if you're into scores. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily as good as. No, it's still good. I don't want to demean it. It's a really good video game and definitely one of the best of the year. I'm just not sure that I get what they had to do Norse mythology. I just prefer Greek. That's just it. I just do. I can't argue it. It's just that.
Yeah, it's one of those things like when with a game like God of War, if you say, "Oh, I didn't think this bit works," everyone's going to be like, "So you're saying you hate the game?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
It's not. I get. I've gone through it for the second time, but yeah. It's just interesting. So yeah, we're doing that just because I wanted to make sure I got some. Again, that'll be up on YouTube.com/the Report Rules. There's already 4 parts that will go up tomorrow, and it's a big chunk as well. So we'll probably get 2 more done, and then that's the game over with. Other than that, yeah, no, it's just been Super Mario, Mario Tennis. Did I play anything else? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. That's but nothing's come out, right? I played a little bit more of Detroit. Detroit 2 Human. No, Become Human. That's what I'm thinking of. I played a little bit more than that. But yeah, I say it every time. But honestly, I think I'd rather play 2 Human. It's not getting me. It's not grabbing me at all. I don't know whether I don't know whether that's me and where I am in my life currently, but it's just like I don't have it in me to play it. I think maybe that Quantic Dream approach to games, which I do like. It's very cinematic and I love the music. I just don't know if I can get through the actual gameplay is my thing.
Yeah. Did you like Beyond and Heavy Rain?
Heavy Rain, I think, is one of my favorite games ever. Beyond, I think, is one of my worst games ever. So I think that kind of sums up Quantic Dream for me. Yeah. Did you play Fahrenheit / Indigo Prophecy?
No. I've heard mixed things, and I've heard it's not aged very well, so don't bother going back to it.
Yeah, no, it probably hasn't. Well, it's funny you've heard mixed things. It's because the first half's great and the second half's terrible. That's probably why you heard mixed things. It's a literal definition of an up and down game. But yeah, maybe I'll go to it at some point. But yeah, at the moment, no. At the moment, honestly, because the World Cup is on, it's all about FIFA. I just love it. That World Cup download's really good. Like, it's really good.
It's very.
Given that it's free, and they used to make you pay 50 quid for these things. I get it. They're making all their money through Ultimate Team. I don't give a shit. Good for you. What's that got to do with me? You're not making anyone buy these things.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that annoys me about the World Cup update is such a small thing, but every time you load onto it, it starts the same Jason Derulo song. Okay, there is no shuffle. It's the same song.
Oh dear! Think how much money they paid for that.
I've heard the same, "Oh, what a feeling," just so many times over and over.
Have you been through a whole tournament yet on FIFA?
No, I've only played it online.
All right, I went through a whole tournament, and it just, how the hell they worked out. Some bizarre teams can win. Put it like that. Like, I don't know what algorithm they're using, but every time someone random wins, I'm like, okay, fine, that's good. But yeah, a shout out to that. I know EA have got deservedly a lot of flack over the last 6 months or so, but that World Cup update, given that it's free, is awesome. I mean, it really is good. I remember playing for Euro 2008, 50 quid. And that was for a flipping update 2 years, 6 months into FIFA's life cycle, whatever it was. So, so this is much better. The last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up, and literally that is all that's going on in the world of games at the moment. Everyone goes quiet until next month. Actually, what comes out next month? Are there any good games coming out in July? Because in the past, no, but I'm pretty sure I looked, not recently, but a while ago, and I was pleasantly surprised that there were some decent games. Or have I made this up?
I can't think of anything.
Well, Jurassic World Evolution has come out, but they get a physical release. Now, I've read mixed things about that too, but I like Jurassic Park games, so I probably will get to that at some point. I think it will be all right. That's what I saw. Red Faction Guerrilla Remastered comes out. That's a good game. Whether you want to play it now, I don't know. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker on Switch, which is secretly the best game Nintendo's ever made. I never said that, but it's true. And Octopath Traveler comes out on Switch as well, which we chatted about a few weeks ago, which is very good. Well, it seems like it's going to be very good. Like I say, super hardcore RPG.
Yeah.
But I think that, I don't know, I think it could surprise some people. And then August, it goes quiet. You've got F1 and a Kami HD for Switch. Who's going to play a Kami HD on Switch? No one wanted to play it 10, 15 years ago. Why are people going to want to play it now?
Well, it's one of those games that like people love to like, even though it didn't sell that well. I don't know if it sold that well actually. But
no, it didn't. It died on his ass.
Yeah, but people just be like, "Oh, it's so artistic," and then the Switch stuff's like, "Yes." So Switch owners will love it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But like this, that game did so badly. I don't know if it's still true today, but at the time, it was the worst-selling issue ever to feature on the cover of a Games TM, which is a magazine if you live in America over here in England. It destroyed everything. However, then we do get to September, which isn't that far away, and then everything blows up. I mean, I don't like
Spider-Man.
Destiny. Well, yeah, Spider-Man, Destiny 2 DLC, which I don't give a shit about, but I know people go crazy for it.
Ugh.
NBA 2K19 comes out, Shadow the Tomb Raider, that Spyro trilogy, people are going fucking crazy over. And then amazingly, the new FIFA game comes out as well. I don't know how that has happened so quickly. But it has. And then, of course, Sam, you better brace yourself for this. Red Dead 2 comes out, and then we can start dedicating whole episodes to video games again.
Yeah, I should probably play that.
I like how you're still not sure. That to me is the end of the year as well.
It's just like everyone's going to be like, oh, and you know what I mean? I know what people are going to be like. It's going to be like, oh, I don't fancy playing that. It's going to be like, how can you? And then just get harassed on the streets and throw tomatoes out. And it's just like, I might as well just, try it.
True.
At least.
But those guys can still kiss my ass. Those guys are still bad people. There's no two ways about it. I hate those people. If you're one of those people, don't do it. It's not cool. But yeah, so we got a good end of year, so maybe it goes a bit quiet. But here's which is why I want to talk about the last thing I want to talk about. I know E3 is kind of a couple of weeks ago, but I kind of sat down and had to think to myself, what didn't I see that I expected to see? And we saw a lot. But to me, a lot of the games that didn't get mentioned, and not all of them, but now I'm starting to think, are we ever actually going to see them again? The games that really, if they're not announced at that E3, not that we're going to see them. What I was thinking about was Splinter Cell. That's where my thought process started. Because everybody thought that Sam Fisher popped up in Wildlands a couple of months ago and everyone thought that's got to be a teaser. And you're probably right. You'd have to imagine they didn't just get, I can't remember the dude, Michael Ironside. They didn't just get him in to record 12 lines or whatever it was. So you must think they're doing something. But if they haven't announced it at this E3, I mean, it's not coming out for any time. Does it still exist? And I don't know, it was a strange one to me because the longer we don't see it, the older the generation gets, and I guess the fewer people actually know what Splinter Cell becomes. It just fascinated me, to be honest. It just intrigued me.
I always thought it was a bit of a stretch to say that there was a new Splinter Cell coming off the back of that Wildlands appearance. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's coming personally. It might have been Ubisoft at our Twitter. The thumb would be like, "Oh, everyone thinks there's a new Splinter Cell." Oh, that's what I think's happened personally.
You just think it's people making up expectations that they wanted, but they're not actually getting them through.
Yeah, it was only a small cameo in Wildlands. It's not like we got we got a leak from Walmart, but we got a leak for Forza Horizons 5. So, what do they know?
Well, a lot apparently.
A lot.
They did get a lot right. I just think this was the time to do it. I just think it was. To me, I know Ubisoft had a lot of stuff, but there was also a lot of, okay, we've seen it. And you could probably say, well, Splinter Cell fits into that category as well. But I thought it was strange. And there were other ones too. Like, I was amazed. Genuinely amazed. And this goes back to, this is what I mean. This is why I didn't want to tie the two in too much, even though they do. I was amazed we didn't see the Avengers project, the game that Square Enix are working on. Given the Avengers right now is the biggest thing in the world, we're coming off Infinity War. That game got announced. In fact, I'm looking it up. Square. It's Square Enix making that game, isn't it?
I think it's gone blank.
Is it
someone else? But Square Enix are behind it.
Platinum's making it, right? But it's being punched by Square Enix. So that was first announced. Well, it was at least 1 year ago because I can see news reports here.
I think it was 2017.
Yeah, and that's nuts. So I get it. It's probably an incredibly difficult project to do, given how big it's become, and you've probably got to treat that like kids' gloves, I assume. But how on earth can that not be at E3 when we're teasing Elder Scrolls 6? That's what I don't get. That's what blows my mind. I don't get it.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't too fussed. I totally forgot it existed until you just mentioned
Well,
it. I fast E3 player.
I did too. Like, it's not necessarily something I'm desperate to play, but it is something I think that, again, ties into, what we mentioned earlier about this, why are we not, why are we announcing games so early? Because it hasn't benefited from being announced. If anything, it's missed the window. The window to talk about it was now, with everybody going wild about Infinity War.
Yeah, maybe it's just not far along in development. Maybe we'll just see it next year.
Well, I guess we will. I mean, that's the...
Maybe.
But maybe we won't. I don't know. And maybe they are actually going to hold it off until the next... what do you call it? Adventure movie comes out, which is what, next year?
I don't know, because it is Infinity War Part 2 or whatever, isn't it? So...
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you've seen the end of Infinity War, it ends on a cliffhanger. So that is absolutely what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know. I found it interesting that they've gone in this bizarre, there's a bizarre direction. It just surprises me. I don't know. And that goes to back on Nintendo as well. With the fact that we didn't hear anything about Metroid Prime 4, where all they've done is release a logo. Why? Why have we just released a logo? It doesn't make any sense. I just don't get it. Get it.
Nintendo and Metroid fans just do not have a good relationship. It's
no, they don't.
I did Metroid Prime 4, and then fuck all. It's just said about it.
So what was the point? Like, you tell me, what was the point of bringing of releasing that, especially if you're not going to talk about it at E3?
Maybe they just felt the pressure to say something because Metroid fans on their ass, and then they didn't really have anything else planned.
Maybe. The other thing as well is we didn't hear... I've got 2 points to make here, which is why it's the last thing I want to talk about. Now, there was a leak that said that there is a game called Star Fox Grand Prix in development by Nintendo. I mean, this came out, I don't know, 6 months ago? I can't remember what it was. Now, there's two things with this. A, we didn't see anything at E3, so straight away, okay, well, maybe it's not true, maybe it is true, I don't know. However... if Nintendo are investing in a Grand Prix game, right?
Yeah.
And that Grand Prix game needs to be separated as much from Mario Kart as possible, why on earth are they not making a new FZero? Why on earth would we why can't Star Fox characters be popped into, Mario Kart, like DLC or whatever? Well, I just don't get it. Why on earth would you try and... I get it. You could say, well, it happened with Diddy Kong Racing. Fine. Good point. But at this day and age, I want a new F-Zero game. I am the F-Zero guy to these Metroid fans that we've just talked about. So I can't understand, genuinely, why you would try... And I'm not saying you're trying to usurp your own games. But I'm just surprised that when you have a franchise that people loved, and you've already got a carton game, and no one really gives a shit about Star Fox characters to begin with, if we're completely honest. Fox McCloud isn't this huge thing. Why on earth would we go in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, because I wouldn't say that Star Fox is much more popular than F-Zero either. So I wouldn't say it's even to do with that. So I don't really get it either. But yeah, I know nothing about F-Zero.
Have you ever played an F-Zero game?
No, is that the one with Falcon?
Yeah.
That's how I know it.
It is, yeah. But it's great.
It's so good in Smash.
It's great, is he? I don't really play, as we know, we've discussed this, I don't really play Smash Brothers. But it's a really good, and it feels like a racing game, like a futuristic racing game. So it's not really, you don't really see it much anymore. Yeah. It was like Nintendo's version of Wipeout. That's what it was. But before Wipeout, the other way around, because Wipeout, Wipeout came long after F-Zero. So yeah, I don't know, man. It surprises me that, especially because we didn't even hear anything about it. So it's like, if they are doing that, and this is actually the plan, it would be very strange to me. Is my point. I'd find it very
so vexed.
Well, I just want a new F-Zero. I'm going to tell you right now when the last F-Zero was. It was on the GameCube, and it was made by Sega, which was weird anyway, obviously, because it's F-Zero GX, which came out in 2003. That's 15 years. And if I type in
you just got to wonder if it's just dead and buried.
It's 100% dead and buried. If I type in F-Zero into Google and click news, every article is just, maybe we'll get new F-Zero, like every E3. But we never actually. It's just dead. It just is. There's no point people bringing it back now. So
yeah.
It's I don't know. It's one of those weird things where, was there anything at E3 you expected to see but didn't? Or I'm not saying it was a bad showing. It wasn't. It was a very good showing. But is there anything you'd hoped to sort of fling over but you didn't get?
No, but there was this one thing. Like, there's this game.
I like this already. I like this already. This is good. The way you said that, like, I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyway.
This game called Session, right?
Uh-huh.
Which was a Microsoft conference, and it's a new skate game, right? It's
I wanted to talk to you about this. Thank goodness you brought it up. But you go, and then I'll jump in a sec.
But like, don't lead with anything skateboarding, and then say it's Session. You know what I mean? Like, because I've known about Session for a while, so I sort of knew it would be that. But don't lead with the skateboarding. That is just so mean. Like, just be like Session, and then go into the trailer. Don't just.
Tell me about it, though, because I saw that, and you were the first person I thought about, because I was like, I don't know if he knows about this or not, but it looks a lot like Skate 4 to me. So he's got to like it on some degree. So
yeah, I mean, I tried an early tech demo because I signed up to like the program, but I don't really want to keep up. I don't like keeping up with a game like that. Sig, it slowly grows.
I totally
a piece of shit into a full game.
Yeah.
So I'll play it when the full game comes out, and I'll make my judgments. But I mean, it's Skate 4, right? But
is it made by the same people, or is it not made by the same people?
No, it's totally independent company.
Okay. So how does that make you feel though? Because you're kind of getting what you want, but also it's not what you want at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more Skate is good, but it's just they've changed the control scheme in a major way. And I'm not saying like, because you don't want to be like making a different game but making the exact same as Skate, you know what I mean? Because then you're just making Skate 4.
Yeah, which is
I'm fine with
more
that.
Dangerous, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just I mean, it looks fine.
You know, fine is not a good word, Sam. I know you have, yeah. Fine is not the word we want to hear.
But it's just, I waited until it's out, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like, oh, it could be the new Skate, could be the new Skate, could be the new Skate. And then it comes out, it's like, this isn't Skate. So, you know what I mean? I just sort of like...
I want you to do that because it'd be fun for me. So, yeah, if you could do that, that would be great.
Just a live reaction. Like, this is awful.
How does it control then? Is it not done on the stick and stuff?
Well, I can't remember. I think what it is you flick down. You know, did you play Skate?
Yeah, I like Skate. Yeah, I think Skate's great.
So to jump, you need to flick down on the right stick and then up, right?
Yeah.
So with Session, you need to flick down on the right stick, but then flick up on the left stick.
Right, that sounds like changing it for the sake of changing it, to be completely honest.
It does, and it takes a lot of getting used to. And you can't... The thing is, that just derails your muscle memory.
Yeah, imagine it would do, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know whether they changed that or whether they've just what they're doing with it, but that is a big change, and you know I don't want to be like, you changed it from Skate where because I'll try it significant amounts before I start criticizing it. But I mean, you know, I'm just sort of just out here not being optimistic or pessimistic, just sort of. Session could be what it wants to be until it comes out, and I can pass judgment.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm glad that came up because I did want to talk to you about that. Well, we'll wait and see, right? That's all we can do. We will wait and see. All right, okay.
It's the best attitude for games, right?
It is because you just never know. Like, you know, they announced Gears 5.
Not Gears of War 5, importantly.
No, 100% now Gears 5, which is interesting in itself. But am I that excited about it? Not really. Simply because I just think that Gears formula has passed its... it has. It's past this tipping point, really. And now I'm happy for it to go try and do something else, and it's not. Again, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to like it. I may play it and think it's great, but right now I'm just going to hold judgment and wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see what happens. I see what you meant. That's it. That's the week in gaming. It really is, you know, people calming down after E3 week, but doesn't mean there isn't stuff we can talk about and delve into, as I'm sure there will be next week as well. Do let me know if you're getting on with Mario Tennis Aces. I think it's wonderful. I'd be intrigued to see what other people think. And again, you know, if you are listening to this on iTunes, you know, give us a 5-star rating, give us a review. You can support all this at patreon.com/Simon316. That is how I'm able to do all of this stuff, so I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And if you'd like to come on any of my podcasts, there's a wrestling one, hopefully be a new one soon if I ever get time to do it, which I plan to. You can come on whichever one you would like with those as well. You can never do too many podcasts, I've learned. People love podcasts, so I do as many as I humanly can. Sam, thank you as always for joining me. I always enjoy our chats.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Got to talk about Skate 4, or not really Skate 4.
I'm so happy you brought it up. I knew there was something I wanted to talk to you about. I remembered last week and I forgot again. So that will be an ongoing process, which I'm looking forward to. And again, you can also watch this at youtube.com/LimitReportRules, along with a bunch of other nonsense that I put up there on Twitter at Simon316. Sam's Twitter handle will be in the description as well. There is no Facebook group, but do remember, we do drop a wrestling podcast every Wednesday as well, Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. So come and listen to that. You can also see me on What Culture, Rock Reacts, loads of other nonsense on the internet. But thank you for listening, and thank you for downloading us. Share with a friend if you fancy it, and hopefully I'll talk to you again next week.